Hey everybody, today we are talking about The Buddha in the Attic by Julie Otsuka. This book is fairly short, so I will also keep this review fairly short to keep from spoilers. But if you have read anything from this author, then you will probably already be familiar with her style. She came out with a book not long ago called The Swimmers, which I also did a review on. And this book, The Buddha in the Attic, it is the same kind of writing style. So me having read both of these books, I can see that The Swimmers let up a little bit on because that book kind of had two parts, and part two was not so much like her writing style that she uses almost entirely in The Buddha in the Attic. The Buddha in the Attic does also kind of have two parts, which I actually was surprised because when I actually listened to this on audiobook, and the narrator changed like for the last 30 minutes of the book, and I was very confused. I was like, why would they just randomly change narrators? And then I realized as I was listening more, oh wait, it's because this is supposed to be a different person entirely. So that's why they did that. That makes the most sense. It's in a different perspective. So this book, it starts out with these Japanese women who are on a boat to go to America to meet their new husbands so that they can live a life in America. And what I mean by her writing style is a lot of the times she does not have a main character, or the main character is a group of people versus one person. Even though there is a narrator, most of the time the narrator does not speak in the first person or the third person. Well, I guess I don't really know what you would call it. Maybe the third person. What she does is she says to describe an event happening, like the very first one, them being on the boat going to America. She will say, some of us brought all of our belongings. Some of us only brought the clothes on our back. Some of us brought the picture of the husband just so that they could stare at them the whole entire time on the way there. One of us got sick. One of us got sick every single night. One of us never got sick at all and loved the boat. So like things like that, where it's describing something happening to several people, but not giving any of them a name, just saying some of us or one of us, or near the end, we start getting people actually being given names. And so, but from a reading perspective, a listening perspective, there's no way for me to really know if any of those names were repeated in earlier sections, or like which one of those names is attached to any of the people mentioned earlier when they were mentioned as some of us or one of us. Maybe there is if you're really looking closely and you're reading and you're able to flip back and forth and be like, oh, I'm pretty sure this is the girl who also did this and this. But when I'm just listening to this, like, and I have no reference to do that, it makes it feel like, well, everyone is just their own person and nobody's repeated in the story. But surely there is like each setting, so like when they're in America versus when they're on the boat, surely one of those stories matches the other one. Like the person who was sick all the time now is pregnant, and she's sick all the time when she's pregnant. So like that's the same person. Surely that's a thing, but you just don't really have a way of knowing for sure. And I guess that's not the point. I guess when you write like this, is all of us have these experiences and together we are one. I mean, maybe that's the main point, is when we're talking in this kind of way about a grouping of people versus having it be an individual story. An individual could still have multiple of these things happen to them in their life, and so you could still relate to multiple of these instances versus just one person that might, I don't know. So basically, I feel like in this situation, you either hate it or you love it in this kind of writing style. Do you want to follow one character the whole way through? Do you want to have just 1 to 3 main people that you're focusing your whole time and energy on learning to love while you're reading a book? Or do you like there being multiple characters and multiple perspectives and points of view? Because you can like both. Like I think about all these big, large fantasy books that I don't read a whole bunch of, but there are, you know, tens of hundreds of like people in those books, and you have to keep track of who is who, and there are different storylines sometimes going on in the same book. But you learn to they get a name, so you are able to memorize their name eventually, and you can remember, oh yeah, he's from this country, and this person's from the city, and this person's from this. And you start, you know, usually they'll have character things at the beginning of the book to help you remember who is who as well. But in this situation, there are multiple people, probably 50 plus people that are referenced as one of us or some of us. Like if you were to total up all the times she said that, assuming that it's all a different person in each one, then yes, there's probably 50 or more people in this story. But the difference is there's no name attached to them. So you can't really get a personal, I mean, in a broad spectrum, a broad outlook, yes, you could feel, oh, I relate to that part, or oh yeah, I know what you're talking about there, but you're not getting a personal one-on-one connection with the character because it's just so many of them and they don't even have names. So that could be a really big turnoff to a lot of people in reading books that are like this, because you get a story, but it's just so less personal and more general, maybe to meet more audiences that way. But it also kind of, I don't know, in my opinion, I feel like it kind of weakens some parts of it, because you don't get to really feel bad when one lady loses her child, because who was her child anyway? Or like, who was this girl that lost the child? Oh, everyone loses children sometimes. Oh, well. But if you knew this person and you knew all the different instances that happened up to the point of her losing the child, you'd be like, no, I feel so bad for her. She needed this child. I can't believe this happened to her. And you'd have more of an instant, like, you know, like connection, or, you know, like just, you would be able to have that character resonate with you better because you know who they are. In this situation, you don't know who any of them are, really. That's the main thing you need to know when you read this book. There's not really any one main character, and sometimes names are thrown around, but most of the time you're not going to know who is who, and it's just going to be a broad idea of what women might have experienced or did experience when they came to America in the late 1900s, and what it was like when they got here, and what kind of racism they might have faced, and all the things that led to certain events happening in the book. So yeah, that is that. So me personally, if you haven't noticed from what I've been saying, this probably isn't my favorite thing. That's kind of what happened when I read The Swimmers. It wasn't until part 2 that we were really focusing on just one or two characters, kind of 3 at the end, and they were referenced in the first one, so you already were aware of them in the first one, and then the last half carried on more in details about those characters, which made this book, which made The Swimmers more of a book that you could resonate or connect with or get more feelings out of towards these characters than you could in The Buddha in the Attic. So I do think, even though she kept some of the style of writing she did as in The Buddha in the Attic, she expanded on it to where she didn't stay in it for the entire story, and she made it a little more personable and easier to connect to, and I think that is a win for The Swimmers. Let me know if you've read this, or if you've read anything from Julie Otsuka before, and how you think about her style of writing, if it's something that you love, or if it's something that you can't stand, because I feel like it's kind of one or the other. Or maybe for you, it is not one or the other, and you just are kind of in the middle about it. So yeah, if you've read this before, let me know what you think. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.